Hi there. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Ryan Vanderhei, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But there's one E that's often overlooked.
And that's educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can help us to learn and develop as human beings. I'm your co host, Joe Parente, and it's our mission with this podcast to share these unique perspectives with you so that you can also grow from the show.
The topic of today's discussion, Wicked. As always, there will be spoilers ahead, so that's just a warning. Proceed with caution. As always, please be sure to leave a like, a rating, or a review wherever it is that you listen, as it really helps the show. Shall we begin?
We shall.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
So, today, Joe, we're talking about the movie Wicked.
Let's talk about Wicked.
And the theme that we're going to sort of dissect here within the film is how people that are different get treated like animals.
Okay.
So, I came up with a question I wanted to ask you. In what way are you unique or different than what's considered normal in society?
And that's not a rhetorical question.
No,
you're asking me a real question.
I'm fully legitimately asking you that question. Yeah.
For me, I think it's how I look at things.
Okay.
And things that are quote unquote normal sometimes really bother me. Like things that are just accepted of that's the way it is. I'm one of those people who's going to say, why? How come? Why is that? Why do we have that, that kind of thing that's accepted in our culture? Well, that's just the way it's done. Really? Why?
Okay.
Yeah. So I like to question things.
Okay.
And I want to understand what's behind things.
Yeah. Curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm a very
I believe that.
Curious person. I don't take things at face value.
Good for you.
I usually want to see what's going on.
I think that's an excellent trait. I think it's important.
Sure. No, absolutely. It's I was listening to a podcast. It was like Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about something, and he was like,
okay, that's great.
Being skeptical is actually a really good quality to have. Like you shouldn't just believe anything you hear. You should question things and want to hear reasons and things like that. You shouldn't just, oh, that's how it is? Okay.
Right. Yeah. I think
it's healthy.
It is healthy. And I think that makes, there are certain traditions we have in this country that just don't work for me. I don't understand why we do them.
Sure.
I like that about me. I like that about you. I like when people are that way and really question.
Yeah, I like when people see things from a different perspective.
Exactly.
And ask questions. I think that's a good thing. When I was trying to figure out what to relate to this, I talk all the time about, how I'm thin and guys are supposed to be whatever. But I was like, that's boring. I've already talked about that a bunch. What else is different about me?
Okay.
And something that I was trying to see through the lens of Elphaba and what she was experiencing in the film, what the animals are experiencing in the film. And it's like when people look at you weird. And so I looked at my own life and I thought about, so I'm not someone who usually partakes in drugs or alcohol. Okay. It's just kind of not my vibe. Like I was a burnout as a high schooler. Like I had my fun. I had my fair share of fun. Believe you me. In college, I did the drinking and everything. But as an adult, it just doesn't really pique my interest anymore.
Okay.
And it's so funny that whenever I'm around people and I say that, or I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need anything. Or no, I'm not going to drink. I'll just take a water or something. People look at me weird. People look at me strange. And I remember seeing this clip that went viral online where this guy was talking about it. And he was like, only in our society will you have to have some sort of reason for not drinking. It has to be that you killed somebody in a car crash, or you have a DUI, you went to jail, you went to rehab. Right. You have to have some sort of like crazy reason why, instead of just, no, I just don't really drink.
I that all makes sense to me. And though it still interests me. I still like having a drink or four. And I don't know. I can't explain it, but it's something that I still enjoy.
Right.
But I have taken periods of like a year of not drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed was when I was comfortable with not drinking, they were fine with me not drinking. If I had the slightest bit of discomfort or struggle or wasn't sure, people, I think, pick up on that.
Interesting.
So I would think, because you are so okay with it, I would think that would help other people be okay with it.
Sure.
But do you still got the look of you are an alien, and when did you land, and when are you leaving?
Yeah, it's like so foreign to people. I remember recently I was somewhere and somebody asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said water. I was oh, water's fine, and they were like, they kind of did like a double take, and they were like, you don't want like there's beer, there's wine, and I was like, no, I'm good with water. And they looked at me like I had 5 heads, you know. It was kind of like, what? It's bizarre. So in the way that which and this will lead us into Elphaba,
Okay.
and I'm leagues away from what she experiences in the film. This is just how I myself relate to it. But I can understand where she's coming from, where people look at her like she's weird and she's strange.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all because Elphaba has green skin. And this is a color that's completely unique to her. No one else in this universe, if you want to call it that, this wicked Wizard of Oz universe where people are, no one's got green skin. She's the only living person with it, as far as we know, right? And that has an impact on her from birth.
Sure does.
We start with she comes out of the womb and she's delivered, and her dad is like mortified.
Get rid of her.
Get that thing away from me.
Yep.
Everyone's kind of shocked. The nurses are hitting the bottle. You know what I mean? They're taking a couple swigs to deal with what's going on. And then the bear is eventually the nurse that delivered her. The bear is actually the one that kind of takes, and we see as she's kind of like the caretaker.
Yeah, she was kind of like the midwife kind of caretaker.
The dad, it kind of treats her as like, yeah, I guess I have to kind of keep you around, but like, you're not my family.
Absolutely.
You're not my daughter.
That's right.
It's kind of like, you're just my responsibility, I guess. And that starts to take a toll on her as a kid. We get to her teenage years or early teens, we'll say late, child years, and she's bullied for it. You know, kids are laughing at her, pointing at her, throwing stuff at her, all because of what? Just because her skin's green.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. And when she arrives at Shiz, where we are in the film, everyone's kind of disgusted by her.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's kind of, everybody gets the shriek whenever they see her.
All those normies.
Right, all the normies. And then we get our first really great scene where we see these two characters, Galinda and her meet Elphaba. Elphaba played by Cynthia Erivo, beautifully. Fantastic. And then Ariana Grande plays Galinda. But she turns around, has her, she's shocked, and she says, "You're green." And then Elphaba looks down and looks back up and says, "I am." And then she smiles. So we see that she is kind of proud of that.
Yeah.
She's proud of who she is. This is, I am green. So what? This is me.
Right.
I'm Elphaba. I'm green. That's a piece of my character. It's who I am. It's my identity. And why should I be ashamed of that? Even though everyone else is clearly, she's like, again, looking at her like she's got 5 heads.
Yeah, true.
So when we get to the end of the film, when she meets the wizard and she can change that, she can change her skin color. They kind of alluded to it throughout, like she'll get the opportunity to meet the wizard and he'll grant any wish. And it's kind of alluded throughout that she'll maybe, like she could become normal. Quote unquote, a normie, if you will.
Right.
But she takes a beat when she meets him. And he says, "I can grant whatever wish." And she chooses not to.
She also makes a great wish, but
She
she
also makes
chooses not to get her skin color changed. Correct.
Correct. She chooses to stay green. And that just reinforces that she's proud of who she is. She's proud to be green.
She's comfortable in her green skin.
She's comfortable in her own green skin.
Yeah.
And even that takes, I think it speaks a lot about her character.
Oh my God, yes.
And who she is and how strong she is and resilient, because for everyone to be looking at you like you're a freak and scared of you. I mean, imagine if every room you walked into, everyone was like,
right. Right. Right.
There's that thing again.
Right.
I don't know how. I mean, I would not be okay.
I wouldn't either. I mean, and think about like what you were just bringing up as the example of I'll have water. That's in a very specific time. It's probably in a very specific place, and it's for a moment, and then it's gone.
Right. Exactly.
And yeah, what you're talking about is everywhere all the time.
That's your life.
That's your
That's
life.
your entire existence.
It made me think about the bear that raised her, too.
Sure.
Like she got a lot of Elphaba got a lot of good love.
Yeah.
You know, as a young
Thankfully.
one, and we did see a dynamic where the dad was horrible to her, and then the bear kind of moved in. It's like it's okay. You know,
Right. She
you're
was
good.
kind of her source of comfort
She was.
and love and care, and
She
made her
was.
feel like she was normal, which I guess there's a parallel there between the fact that she was a bear amongst humans,
Right.
an animal amongst humans, which
That's
we'll
right.
get into later,
Yes.
which is more core of this discussion and the theme here. But certainly that's a great thing to point out, is that she had that. Had she not had the love of the bear mother figure, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
She probably wouldn't be as resilient and strong as she is.
And she could probably relate more to the bear than her own father.
100%,
You know?
without question.
Yeah.
So there's another scene where Galinda, they're down in the ball. It's like they sneak out and they go to this is the wizard ball or whatever it is, and Elphaba starts to dance. And again, everyone's looking at her like she's a weird freak. They're laughing at her, pointing at her, and she's just, I don't care. I'm just me. I'm doing my thing. This is where I am.
Yeah.
And she kind of owns it, and I respect that a lot. I liked
totally
her
owned
even
it.
more in that scene. And then Galinda does something. She
Yes, she did.
sees, and she has a heart, and so she feels for her, and she can empathize a bit. We won't say too much.
No.
She can empathize about this much,
Right.
but she can to a degree, because she starts to move in and comfort her
And do the dance with her.
because she knows that in her shoes and in her position, everybody looks up to her, Galinda,
Right.
as like the
Mm-hmm.
you know. So
She's the it girl.
right, exactly. So if she accepts someone and accepts something and starts to dance a certain way, people are going to follow. She's the leader. People are going to follow. And so that was a big move for her to make, to put herself out there, embarrass herself potentially, because everybody, as soon as she started, was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Why are you, what? Everybody was confused. But then after a while, she gets into it. They're doing the dance together. And then what happens? Everybody joins in. Of course.
How'd you feel about everyone joining in?
I thought it was just so typical. Yeah.
Exactly.
it's
That
these-
actually really bothered me.
Really? Why?
Well, because she's a freak. She's a freak. Oh, Galinda likes her. Galinda likes her. Oh, we like her too.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Because we're lemmings
yeah.
and we can't think for ourselves.
Right. We need Galinda to think for us.
I
Whatever
just
she
thought-
thinks is cool, we think is
Yep,
cool. Whatever
yep,
she
and
doesn't
the
like,
masses will follow.
we don't like. Yeah.
That's why it really worked me. That part of that really agitated me. But that's the way it is.
And now that you say that, that makes a lot of sense. Because I felt the same way. I want to talk about the animal plot running parallel
Yeah.
to
I love it.
Elphaba's plot.
Okay.
Because I think it's no mistake that these two run directly parallel next to each
Totally
other throughout
agree.
the film.
Yep.
So as we sort of see the unraveling of the animals and their experience and they're being sort of shunned out,
Mm-hmm.
we see Elphaba experiencing a lot of the same things. Even though she's a human being like everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
she's got this thing that makes her different. She's not like everyone.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the green skin. And it's a representation of how people who are different are often treated. So we get to a scene in the film where on the board in class is written, "Animals should be seen, not heard." And Dr. Dillamond, the professor, who I figured out now,
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. I was throughout the movie. I was
You
like,
recognized that accent,
"This
didn't you?
voice, it sounds so familiar. Who is this?" It was killing me. And then I looked. I was like, "Oh yes, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
Tyrion."
Yeah.
Got it.
Tyrion.
So we get Dr. Dillamond. He's obviously hurt by what has happened.
Mhm.
Tells everyone to get out. And who's the only person that stays? Elphaba.
Yep.
Why?
She can relate. They can relate.
Because she is the only one that can relate.
Yep. And
She's
showed him
been
real
in his
kindness.
shoes.
Absolutely. She is
She is
in parallel
actively
shoes. Yeah.
in his shoes
All the time.
Yes. She empathizes with him.
Yep.
She is the one that comes to his aid and shows him kindness.
Yes.
And is there for him because she knows what it feels like. And later, we jump to a scene where she's with Madame Morrible, I
Mm-hmm.
think is how you say it,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
where she's trying to train her to use her powers, to harness the
Mm-hmm.
power, I guess you could say. And she can only do it when she gets emotional. She has these outbursts, and that's when the magic appears.
Mhm.
She can't control it yet. And they're having a discussion. She gets angry, and she's able to levitate the coin because she says nobody should be scorned. Because if anybody knows what it's like to be scorned,
Oh yeah.
it's Elphaba.
Oh yeah.
Her whole life.
Yeah.
And this animal cruelty, we can call it, the dismissal of these animals, it gives her, it ignites a fire in her, I think. I think maybe she had already come to terms with the way that people treated her,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's been through her entire life up to this point. We will assume that she's in her like late teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
And when she meets Dr. Dillamond, the talking goat professor in Oz, it kind of reignites that flame of like, wait a second, this isn't okay what happens.
That's right.
And sometimes we need that in society. We need something that reminds us. We talked about on a previous episode, I think it was a Gladiator episode, about how important history is.
That's right.
To teach us what happened in the past so that it doesn't happen in the future. She was so too close to the sun. She had already accepted the fact, which to her benefit helped her a lot, that she was people just looked at her this way and it didn't matter. It didn't affect her. But now she sees it happening to someone else in front of her eyes, someone that she likes, that she's very fond of. She respects Dr. Dillamond a lot. And so she comes to his aid and it kind of reignites this fire.
Mm-hmm.
So then at the end of the film, we get this big finale song called Defying Gravity, where she sings about what? Defying gravity and not allowing anyone to bring her down. So her entire arc of a character from the start of the film to the end of the film, to the final frame, is how she kind of, one, isn't going to allow other people, just because of the way she looks, to bring her down. Nobody's better than her. she's just like everyone else. And 2, that she's going to help the animals.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to do whatever it takes to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives us a great insight into what this was a perfect prequel. This is what prequels were made for, is to give us insight into how things are the way they are in the world that we're in. Because in The Wizard of Oz, the monkeys are with her. The flying monkeys are with her. This movie not only gives us the context of how did the monkeys become to fly.
Right.
We see how that happens.
Yep.
And we see how she's painted as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs a good bad guy.
Right.
To unite them.
Right.
And how she comes to work with the animals. So this does a fantastic job of sort of laying the foundation for what is to come in The Wizard of Oz, or Wicked Part 2, as we know. When it first scene that comes up, it's Part 1.
Part
and
1.
Going, oh,
Exactly.
2 hours and 40 minutes, and we got a Part 1. Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that was really what I took away from this film a lot. And we'll get into more later of the parallels into our reality and how we can relate to this as a society.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, why don't we do a bad guy break?
Let's do a bad guy break. Love it.
So, as always, I'm going to give you 4 hints to guess this popular fictional antagonist. Okay?
And by you mean people listening or me.
Yeah, the year, the genre, the setting, and the actor.
Okay.
And you're going to try to guess a bad guy that relates to this topic we're discussing, this thinking you're better than everyone else, thinking you're superior to everyone. So the year that this film came out was 2012. The genre is action adventure. The setting is dystopian North America.
Dystopian North America.
And the actor who plays this character is Donald Sutherland.
Whoa. I know, exactly. Donald Sutherland.
Do you have any guesses?
Wow.
So this character is President Snow from The Hunger Games.
Totally forgot he was in there.
And
Sorry,
I
Donald
chose-
Sutherland.
Yeah, great performance. Rest in peace. Did he?
Yeah,
just passed away
yeah,
recently. Rest in peace. President Snow from The Hunger Games. So I chose him specifically because his character in the films, if anyone's familiar with them, believe that he was the ruler. I mean, he is the ruler of Panem, which is like dystopian North America. And he thinks that he's got absolute control over the districts. The power goes to his head. And he believes that the districts, particularly the poorer ones, are inferior to him and need to be controlled and punished for any defiance that they have. So it runs a great parallel. I'm using that word a lot today, parallel.
Yeah.
To Wicked and the story that's there about people feeling superior to others just based on these frivolous things.
Mm-hmm.
He's the leader. We see that a lot with leaders, unfortunately, where they become detached. They're too far removed from the people, right? That's why everyone, when they want a leader, they want somebody who's with the people.
Like Gladiator 2, same thing.
Exactly. Yes. Somebody who knows the struggle. Somebody who's been there,
right?
Who's been in their shoes, who they can relate to.
Yes.
That's what people look for in a leader, not somebody who's so far removed like President Snow that has no concept of the fact that this is a human being, I'm a human being. They're just less fortunate than I am. And so I thought that was a good
yeah, that's a great bad guy break.
Good bad guy break for
it's
this
a great bad guy break.
So let's get into the weeds, if we will, the thick of it here.
That's where we like it, in the weeds.
So
yes,
I wanted to, as I was watching the film and afterwards as I was dissecting it in my head, I couldn't help but draw these comparisons to the civil rights movement in America. To me, there was a direct parallel, again, between this film's storyline and the civil rights movement in the United States in the 50s and 60s. It's worth noting, by the way, that the novel of which Wicked the play was based on, of which the movie is based on, the novel itself was written in 1995. So long after.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to look that up as I was like in my head thinking about this. I made sure to look it up because I was like, well, if it was written before, it wouldn't make sense. But it was written in 1995, so much longer after the civil rights movement had concluded. So in this film and the story here, animals are having their rights stripped away. They're no longer allowed to speak. They're no longer allowed to teach. They're being cast out of society just because of what? They're an animal.
Yeah,
they're just different.
They're different.
They're just different than me, than you and I. That's it. That's the only thing.
I think they needed Galinda to accept them. Then everyone would have been fine.
You need somebody. People could look to Galinda. If she accepts the animals, everyone will. Because clearly that's how these people operate in Oz. Specifically at Shiz.
Shiz, yeah.
Which, what a
I know. I know.
Listen.
That's quite a name.
We won't go there.
That's for another episode. Yeah.
They're being turned into slaves.
Yeah.
Like we see the monkeys are for the wizard.
Isn't that fascinating?
They're disgruntled.
Yeah.
They're not happy. They don't want to be there. Their ability to speak has been taken from them. Everything, all their rights have been stripped away, and now they're just a slave.
Right.
And we see that Elphaba gets upset because she learns the true nature of their involvement is that they just want to use them for their own good. They want to use them as spies. If the monkeys have wings, they can spy on things and come back and report to us.
Yeah.
And we can keep...
It's messed up.
Keep things good. So...
It's so messed up.
So there's a scene in the movie where Dr. Dillamond, our goat professor, comes in and he tells the students that he's no longer teaching there at Shiz, and he gets taken away against his will. Everybody, the guards, I guess if you will, or police, come in and escort him out. Not really escort him, they drag him out. And Elphaba gets mad. And she looks around at everybody and she says, are we all just going to be silent? I don't know about you.
And they were too silent to even say yes.
Right. Right. She put them all to sleep.
She did.
But...
Which I thought was brilliant because they were all asleep anyway.
Right. You know? They're all sleeping through life anyway, so what does it matter?
Yeah, exactly.
That was really profound to me.
I agree.
Because...
It's a great scene.
There's a sentiment that came along with the civil rights movement where if you're silent, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, very good point.
If you're backing away and you're saying, well, it doesn't affect me, so
right,
kind of just gonna, I'm not involved in this. I'm kind of just gonna back away here.
Right. Not my problem.
That's what's happening here. And Elphaba's saying, are we all just gonna be silent? We're not gonna say anything here? We're all just going to let this happen? Yeah, sure. We're not an animal. Sure,
right.
We are not, a member of their society. We can't relate in that way, but...
And we're not going to be affected. So
no,
we're
it's
good.
not going to affect us. Good. But when you see injustice happen, you got to take action. You can't allow that to happen in front of you, to allow people to be mistreated in that way. And again, boom, I like Elphaba more.
Yeah.
There are several moments throughout the film where I'm like, I like her even more and more and more and more. And there's several moments where I'm like, I don't like Galinda. I don't like Galinda. I don't like, which is weird because we know, if you've seen The Wizard of Oz, you know that Elphaba ends up as the Wicked Witch of the West and the bad guy, and then Galinda, because she drops the A,
right,
ends up as the Good Witch. And she's like kind of the fairy that goes around in the bubble and everybody loves her. So it's like, whoa, Well, at least from this movie, I'm on Team Elphaba.
Oh, for sure. Me too.
I'm agreeing with what's going on there.
Yeah.
Which, again, such a great prequel. To
Agreed.
give us more context and a great backstory for Elphaba.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something else that further gets behind this point here. So we have the prince.
Yes, we do.
Mr. Prince comes along and he's classically handsome. He gets everything handed to him. Everybody, again, like Galinda, they kind of just,
Right.
He's like the knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And the first time that Elphaba meets him, he about tramples right over. And Elphaba turns to him and says, "Is this how you go about your life? Trampling over people in your path?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. No kidding. You know what I like though? He took it.
He took it, yeah. He was good about it.
He was.
He was.
Also, well, part of why he was good about it was that he saw her and thought, hey, wow,
Yeah.
which I liked.
It wasn't a, ugh.
No, not at all.
And it was one of the first reactions that she's ever gotten that wasn't that.
Correct. And of all people to get it from,
Yeah.
the one that everyone wants to get that reaction from.
Correct.
And she's the one who got it.
Correct.
Oh, that made it interesting,
Absolutely it did.
you know?
And it just, again, I saw the connection. That's kind of how people perceived it. You're just bulldozing through anyone in your path. Sure, the animals are, you could use them for something else, or they're a discrepancy, or they're kind of in your way. Take away all their rights. Get rid of them. Actually, you know,
Yeah.
you've got
for
the
sure.
power to do it. Do
For
it.
sure.
You know?
So, something that comes up for me
Yeah.
from watching this and from hearing your perspective, which
Yeah.
I think is awesome, by the way. Well done.
Thank you.
Is we have people like, we have one person, Elphaba, who's born different, born unique,
Yes.
born immediately shunned by her father. So she was at a detriment. She was at a, she had points against her, if you will, on the board in a certain
did.
sense from the word go.
Mm-hmm.
And so she grows into a woman who is compassionate towards other people. And we have had civil rights movement in this country. There have been other, getting women's suffrage even.
Yes, yes.
The removing of slavery, going back and forth in time. Forgive me, that wasn't chronologically said.
Right.
But we have that, and we have so many movies where you see the underdog badly treated, and that underdog can relate to other underdogs. So as you're talking and as we're going through the movie, it's just hitting me. What's it going to take for more people to support the underdog?
Yeah.
How many movies like this? How many movements have to happen where people are going to actually shift their perspective and not be just like the drones at Shiz University?
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't want that to be a rhetorical question.
Sure, no, it's absolutely.
It's like, what's it going to take? Does everyone have to suffer to connect with other human beings and want to lessen others' suffering? What's it going to take, Ryan? What's it going to take?
I'm with you, man. Trust me, I'm with you 100%. You're absolutely right, and I appreciate that point you made. That how many more times are we going to have to see this play out? Right. How many more times are we going to have to see the news headlines? How many more times are we going to have to relive this experience and see so many different groups of people affected in this way before we finally are like, oh yeah, maybe there's something going on. Maybe we're going about this the wrong way.
Exactly. Because you know what it is? It's almost like group Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. There's a reset button.
And right.
News headlines, they make it for a week or so, and then people go back to life.
That's right.
It doesn't affect me.
Right.
You need people like Elphaba. You need people like that. It doesn't affect me, but I'm involved. I want to reach out. I want to make my presence known.
That's right.
I want to help.
That's right. because she actually is affected. It's just a different type of.
Correct. She can.
Yeah.
Like, we have to. Not until us as a society as a whole, which can empathize and relate to people that are just outside of our orbit, just outside. But there's parallels.
Right.
There's parallels. There's things that we can relate to in our own lives. We can see how that's what empathy is.
It is.
It's just, I am not in your shoes. However, here's a situation I was in and similar, and I can understand how you're feeling and how this is not okay and how I don't want this to continue to happen.
That's right.
Until we got more people thinking like that, it's going to keep continuing, unfortunately.
Sad but true.
Sad but true.
Sad but true.
Let's end this on a happy note here. Let's give these
Please.
people some recommendations.
You do it.
So if you liked Wicked and you want to see more movies like it, here's 5 you can watch right now. They're streaming right now. The first, Enchanted, 2007 film starring Amy Adams on Disney+. Beauty and the Beast, 2012 live action version starring Emma Watson on Disney+. Into the Woods, the 2014 film starring Meryl Streep and a whole bunch of other people. That's on Disney Plus as well. Wonka, the 2023 film starring Timothée Chalamet. That's on Hulu. And because of the director, In the Heights, the 2021 film starring Anthony Ramos. You can watch that on Hulu as well. So to recap our discussion here today, Elphaba is scorned because of her green skin. But she doesn't let that get her down. And she's proud of who she is. History tells us that when people are different or stray outside of what's considered normal by society, that they're treated like animals. We stare, we pass judgment, and we try to rip their rights away, all because they're not like us.
Right.
In 2 words, fuck that.
Right on.
Celebrate what makes you different. And look out for one another like Elphaba did for the animals. Do not sit by and let injustice happen. At the end of the day, we're all members of the same species.
I just got to say, it was a beautifully dropped F-bomb. You know, if you're
There's
going
a
to
time and a place
there
for
is a time and a place, and that was the time and the place. So I applaud that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So why don't we wrap things up, huh?
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, as always, you're the main character of your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and take a look at the bigger picture. Because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.